I'm Joe the Alternative Gamer, and here's my review for Final Fantasy 15 on the PS4 TurboGrafx, Xbox One, and PC, and maybe it's even on Mac. No, it's not on Mac. Nothing's on Mac. Alright, little background on Final Fantasy with me. I love this series. It's one of the series, this and Metal Gear Solid, back in the PS1 era, where I was like, oh my god. They can tell really good stories in video games, and this is something I want in all my games. And at the time, not everyone was having all these like in-depth character development or voice acting. Final Fantasy didn't get that till later, but Metal Gear Solid had excellent voice acting, especially for the time, and it's held up really well. So well that they did a remake of the first Metal Gear Solid game. The voice acting's terrible in that. It's terrible! It's so bad! Just keep the original stuff. Sorry, tangents. But with Final Fantasy, I just love the universes that they created. I liked how each one was going to have something similar to the series, but be something totally different. And the music was always amazing, along with the battle system. I didn't know what RPGs were, and I started playing Final Fantasy, and I'm like, oh my god, like, why am I waiting? I'm like over here with a sword, and it's like, you cannot attack, you must wait your turn. I'm like, that's all I do in life is I wait my turn. Come on, let me attack now. And then I got into it because it's kind of cool and tactical. Makes you use this, and well, this is really hard for me to use because it's just not as good as, well, everyone else. So, you know, it takes me a little bit longer, but Final Fantasy, you helped me get smart. Final Fantasy really cemented my love for stories and games. I've played a bunch of them. I know, all right, Ultra fans out there, I haven't played all of them. Forgive me. I will get there before I die. But I've played like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, 10-2, the most of 12, but that got boring, but they're coming out with a better version this year, so hey, maybe it'll get better. I even loved the 13 games, all 3 of them. Yeah, and this is where most people are gonna be like, well, I'm gonna stop watching his video, because a lot of people were really polarized by it. It was like, oh, I like Final Fantasy, I don't like 13, or I like 13, I don't like 13. I really enjoyed them. Stories were a bit convoluted, but Final Fantasy kind of has that anyway. What I liked is it kind of returned to a similar structure for me, with some relatable characters and a great battle system, and awesome music. And then Final Fantasy 15 finally came out, and I'll tell you right now, I love Final Fantasy 15. It's awesome. Right out of the gate, I was like, I turned to my lady and I'm like, lady? And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm playing something special right now. And then she turns to me and she's like, no dear, you are special. In all seriousness, that's what I felt like right when I was playing the game. From the beginning hours all the way till the end of the game. To me, I felt like I was playing something really special and very unique and very Final Fantasy. I really enjoyed the story to this game. I thought it had, you follow basically these 4 guys that kind of are like these J-pop singers. At least that's how they're dressed. They don't really act that way. I mean, they have like the hair and they're like brooding a little bit, you know, but whatever. But they're all really likable. You got Noctis, you got Ignis, you got Prompto, who's awesome because he's like, you know, a prior fat kid and he still loves food and, well, I am a fat kid. And then you got Gladio, who's just all around badass. Here's the thing with the story though, and it's kind of funny how this game is done. When you pop up the game, it's like Final Fantasy. One's for longtime fans and new fans, or some shit like that. And I'm like, I started playing the game and I'm like, how do these people meet? How are they friends? And they don't really describe that right away to you, and I'm like, huh? So I go looking up, and apparently there's a free anime on YouTube, which I will include in the link in my description, that if you play Final Fantasy 15, you should check out this anime. Because what it does is, it's Final Fantasy 15 Brotherhood, and it shows how the 4 first became friends, which I think is a really core element to then know where the relationship is at now. And to have that background where it's like, oh, this is how we all became buddies, and they're each individual like vignette stories. And it's really good. It's only an hour long, great stuff. But at the same time, it's not like the game's like, hey, did you check out that free anime? You wouldn't know unless you gave it the old Google, and guess what? I did, because I got an inquisitive mind. And with that too, before you start Final Fantasy 15's game, you should watch the movie Kingsglaive. Why? Well, number 1, the action scenes are kick-ass in that. And number 2, it's pretty. And the face, you know, the hairs and stuff. Final Fantasy always does a great job with the hairs. They're all pretty, even the men. But it gives you a background to the world, so you get a nice little foundation to how the world works. Then Brotherhood shows you how the characters meet up. So when you get into Final Fantasy 15, it's like, all right, I've finally done my homework. I'm ready to play the game. The main missions in the game have a lot of these awesome, really big set piece kind of moments where you're fighting off against like a lot of foes or these big bosses. And what they do is really unique because they kind of always keep you in the action. Whether you're doing a quick time event will then change into actual gameplay or vice versa, I feel like they're always changing things up, either to show you something from a stylistic point of view and then get you back into the gameplay, but you almost always have control all the time in the campaign. I really like that. It's very good, very epic, and a lot of fun. And like I said, the story does have some flaws, which I'll get into in a bit, but overall, I do like the main tale, and it's a lot of fun, really good, with some really likable characters throughout. And you know what? Can't ask for anything more. An awesome part about Final Fantasy 15 is the music. Very well done here, appropriately epic, and even one battle soundtrack in it kind of reminds me of the Tales of series. If you haven't played that, it's another great action RPG series. Kind of gets like eclipsed a bit by Final Fantasy, but just as awesome, and has some really awesome characters in it. But Final Fantasy 15 has a great original soundtrack, but also they hit you in the nostalgic feels because you can buy in-game all the Final Fantasy soundtracks from like before 15. So I was like, oh, I'm jamming out to Final Fantasy IX's battle music. I love this. So you keep, I don't know. I just love that this stuff is in there, and it feels like too, like Final Fantasy 15 can stand on its own legs, but I like that it has those like nostalgia moments in it, but it doesn't feel like it relies on that, if that makes any sense. It's more like, oh, well, the Final Fantasy 15's music sucks. We'll just throw in some of the older tunes, they'll love it. That's not the case here. It's like, the music here is already great, and then they're like, oh, you want to listen to some of the older music? Well, here you go! All of them, and it's awesome. I probably put about over 80 hours into this game, and I could still do more. Didn't finish all the side stuff. There's a massive open world to this game, and there's a lot of side missions. Now, most of the side missions do boil down to go here, kill this monster, go here, kill this monster, go here, kill this monster, or you're gonna meet this really annoying lady who's like, I'm trying to collect frogs. Could you get the frogs for me? But the game doesn't tell you where the friggin' frogs are, and you have to look in the grass, and the frogs are green, it's annoying. That's about it. But anyway, even though the side missions are repetitive in structure, where they're like, go kill monster, come back. Can you go kill this monster? Come back. Can you kill the other monster? That's pretty much how it is, but the battle system is so awesome in the game that you're just like, oh yeah, keep giving me more monsters to kill, or I'm just gonna kill random things. Keep hacking at a tree or whatever. The combat is really good in this. They kind of take a more action active approach instead of being like, all right, I'm playing Final Fantasy VIII and I will wait here. Or 10, where you're like, I can go to the bathroom, come back, make some cookies, make some lunch, whatever, eat a sandwich, and the turn won't go. You can kind of play it that way. That's one thing I do like about Final Fantasy 15 is they have a wait option, so if you're not actually moving in the game, it'll stop everything so you can kind of think of things tactically. I do like that. But I also like that they kind of went out there and really went for this kind of more action-like approach, and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun to play, very good, and at the same time, a nice progression for the series too. One thing I have to say is that I know there's a vocal group of people that don't like the Final Fantasy 13 games, but it's kind of funny that a lot of people have been praising Final Fantasy 15, but 13.2 and 13.3 have a very similar mission structure to this game that's out right now, Final Fantasy 15. Because in Final Fantasy 15, there's a plethora of side missions, and then you have your main stuff. But in 13.2 and 13.3, there were several big open worlds, and there were a lot of side missions like this, and I think they took from that and kind of made it a bit better in 15. But I just think it's funny where people, oh, I don't like this at all, but then 15 comes out and pretty much does the same thing. Oh, I like it a lot. I just wanted to speak to that effect on that. I love Final Fantasy 15. Now, there are flaws to the game. I know. I'm shocked too. Can you believe it? I'm saying I love something, but then I'm telling you there's flaws? How can it be? It has to be perfect. Well, it doesn't have to be perfect to be perfect in my eyes, and that's okay. And we'll start with some of the gripes that I have about it. Like, there's certain missions that you have to complete either during the day or at night. Fine. Now, when you go to the location, sometimes they don't tell you right away, oh, you have to complete this at night. So you go, finally get to the location, and they're like, oh, you have to come back when it's daylight out. It's like, well, can't we like sit here and, wait for that to happen. No, you gotta go find a campfire or walk around or leave the controller on while you take care of the kids or whatever. This is just annoying. Just have a wait feature. Witcher is like, oh, well, the mission starts at 2 p.m. It's 3 p.m. now. I'm gonna wait, set the old alarm clock for that time, and I'll be right back. You do that, and it's like, oh, here, I'm ready for the mission. That's all Final Fantasy needs. And you know what? They could do that in a patch, and it'd be great. Now, there is a time where you can change the time in the game, time, is that if it's the daytime and you're doing a nighttime monster hunting mission, they'll prompt you and be like, do you want to wait here till nighttime? And I'm like, oh yeah, because what else am I gonna do? So like, they do have a wait feature in the game, but they need something that's just like, go to the menu, hit wait, and then you can do it wherever you want. It would just make it a lot easier, especially when you're going all around the open world. A little thing that's annoying, it really becomes a non-issue as the game goes on, but really early on, you're not as powerful as you are later on, which is, you know, because progression. But here, you'll get severely injured and your buddies are supposed to automatically come to you and like pat you on the back and then revive you. Well, there's no command saying, hey, shitbirds, come over and like pat me on the ass so that I can finally get healed. It's just like, you're like hanging around everywhere. I'm dying. I'm the prince. I'm Noctis. I'm going to die. Can you help me? And they're just like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I need to keep whacking at these bushes, demon bushes, meow. And you're over here and then you just die. And I'm like, wow. Thanks, guards. Thanks. You're really helpful on that. Gonna add a command in there to be like, oh, hey, I'm about to die. Would you come and save me? Seeing as how you can only control the main guy. Yeah, it's a little annoying sometimes, especially when the big toad is licking your ass and he's doing so much damage to you. Yeah, they do that. I didn't make that up. But minor gripe, because then you get like super powerful later on. And it's just like, no, I don't need your help. And guess what? My allies got downed later in the game. You know what I did? I didn't heal them. It's the spite, out of spite, because they didn't do it for me. God. I know I was arguing with an AI, but whatever. Since we're into the nitpicking bushes, let's keep going further. Here's another one. So there's a little fence. You can jump over it. Slightly bigger fence. Can't jump over it. All frickin' time, you can't jump over the fence. They'll be like, no, you need to go from here, walk all the way around over here, wait till nighttime for the drawbridge to open up, and then you can go past. No, you don't really have to do something like that. It's just exaggerating. But that kind of stuff's annoying. It's like, just let me jump. And you know what else with jumping? There's fall damage in this game. What? Who was thinking, hey, guys, got a new Final Fantasy game coming out. Hey, you know what we're gonna need? We're gonna need jumping in that. And put those slightly higher fences that seem like they can get over them, but they can't because invisible walls. Ha ha ha. We love screwing with the players. But here, you're like, come on, just let me jump over it. And then when you jump over some things and you go off a cliff, it's like huge amount of fall damage. Why do you do that? Not to compare to Witcher 3 again, but Jesus Christ, I mean, like, Geralt will be like running up a hill and then you're just like, well, I don't want to run all the way back down and just do this mission up here. So I'm like, oh, I'll try and slide down the hill. And it's a small hill. It's this little hill. You jump off, you die. Renowned monster hunter, dead from a cliff. Little cliff. Like, seriously. Ah, oh, my legs are so weak. Like, it's just stuff like that where I'm like, what was the point of putting it in? Because here's the thing with Final Fantasy 15. There's fall damage, but when you're outside of battle, you get all your health back like that. So why are you taking away my health with fall damage and then giving it right back to me? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, here's the cookie, and right when you're about to go, yeah, I'm gonna take it away, but then give it right back to you. You're gonna get the cookie anyway, you're gonna get your health back anyway. That analogy is really shitty, but anyway, moving along. Oh, and my favorite that Final Fantasy 15 has. So you got the fall damage, you got all the silly stuff I mentioned before. You have a car that you use to kind of take you around places, because that's what cars do. Now, my favorite bit. You have to pay for gas in the game. Yet you almost never run out of gas, and gas is the cheapest freaking thing to get in the game. It's 10 gil. It's a dime. It's a dime, okay? Why? Just make my vehicle be running off of like my own gas. Like why? Why am I paying for this? This doesn't make any sense. It's like, oh, you just have to sit through an animation where Noctis is like, oh, hey, let me just put this in here. And then because it's a Japanese game, you have weird like, this is gonna make no sense to anyone who doesn't play any Japanese RPGs, but you know that. Every time they're in a conversation, there's the weird like, grunt sound or whatever. Then your parents come in the room, they're like, what the hell are you playing? It's like, go away, Mom, I'm enjoying the fantasies. More things to talk about. You can fish in the game, you know, in your fantasy RPG where you can, you know, shoot fireballs out of your hands and fight with swords and leap really high, but not too high because you're gonna get fall damage. You can fish. You can take time to fish. You know, something anyone can do. I can't ride a dragon and be awesome and save the world. Well, I probably could, but I'm just not that ambitious. It's just late. That's why I'm talking right now here, because I don't want to go outside. But anyway, and you can garden in the game. You know, stuff that you can't do in real life. Just love that. Thank God. I'm happy they finally sat down and they were like, oh, well, we're going to put fishing in the game. Then we got gardening in the game. They're going to love it. People love to do those things. That's why they play video games. You know what? As DLC, we're going to add paying taxes, because that's another thing that everyone loves to do. Just add it up on there. Good stuff. Another thing that's just weird is when you're in dungeons, they're like, oh, like normally there's a, oh, hey, we're running at a brisk pace here. Oh, yeah. Hey, Ignis. Yeah, huh? Yeah, we're keeping up. Oh, this is good. Then when you get into the dungeon, it's like, slow movement. That's really annoying, because when you're outside of the dungeon, it's like, ah, yeah, this is going good, yeah. But right when you get in the dungeon, it's like, no, I don't know what's around every corner. It's gonna get dangerous. I'm like, you have swords, man. You'll be okay. Just run. Jesus, I don't have all day here. Well, I do, but still. This thing just annoyed me. After about 80 hours into the game, it just, it got to me. After almost every single battle that you have, sometimes in the open world or not, it doesn't happen all the time, but happens frequently enough that I have to talk about it, is you'll win a battle and your character will stop where he is instead of keep continuing on, and he'll be like, that was a tough one. And then you'll go and fight another battle after that, and he'll be like, man, that was really good. And he'll keep doing that all the time. Now, it's fine if it's like, the first 10 battles, let's dust off the old hands here. But no, after 80 hours in, it's just like, Jesus Christ, stop doing this! Stop this! Now, if you've read some things on Final Fantasy 15, you've heard that Chapter 13 is the worst mission in the game. I'll tell you right now, it's really not that bad. I think people were blowing it out of proportion. Now, does it go on for too long? Yes. It should be a bit shorter. Is it terrible? No, it's not that bad. They do give you some different options and different way of play. My thing is it lasts a little bit too long, and if they cut it down a bit, I think it wouldn't be as bad and people wouldn't get as pissed off at it. But it really, for me at least, it wasn't that bad. Though the one thing that was annoying is it was the only time in the whole game where it just crashed and I had to do a certain section again because I didn't save. Shame on me. Save. As like my kind of last gripe with the game is there are characters in the game that do, and story points that do feel relatively rushed or not fully thought out or realized to us, or they're told to us and not shown to us. There's a lot of that going on in the story. Now, I did some research on the game, and it seems like Final Fantasy 15 has had a very troubled development cycle. And from what I understand, and granted this was some guy who said he worked for the company, and he was just giving some insight to, fans and such like that, but he said that the game was contractually obligated to come out in 2016, which explains why it came out the ass end of 2016 in November, and they said they needed 6 more months of development. Now, this does show a lot in the story parts, and in how the game gets very, narrowly focused towards the last couple chapters, where some of the stuff you're just like, I want to explore these places, and it feels like you can. And from some of the research I've done, it shows that there were areas that were fully realized, they just didn't have them in the game for whatever reason. Now, I gotta give Final Fantasy 15, the developers and their team, everybody, huge credit for this. Because going forward, they said that they want to improve the story, flesh out elements that were not fully realized. A lot of that stuff you do see in Chapter 13, and in the March patch coming out, they are going to be fleshing out one individual character in there with some more cutscenes. Now they said they want to continue doing this. So Final Fantasy 15 is only going to get better. And I like that they're coming out and being like, oh, fans are a bit displeased with the story and certain elements of it, and they want stuff better. And Final Fantasy the developers could just be like, tough, you bought the game and that's it. But I give them a huge amount of credit for them being like, oh no, we're gonna go back and fix it, we'll localize it in English. That's all time and money for them, and I'm happy that at the end of the day, they're really striving to kind of get that director's cut final version of Final Fantasy 15 out there. Unlike BioWare and EA when Mass Effect 3 came out, and the ending sucked complete ass and they kept sticking to their guns, which I give them a little credit for, fine, but at the same time, fans knew that was rushed and there was probably reasons for why that was rushed. But you know what would have helped? If you admitted that it wasn't really what you wanted, because that was apparently true when playing the game, and tried to fix it. Final Fantasy 15, they're like, hey, we're happy you bought the game, thank you very much, and they're trying to fix it. So I give them huge props for that. Boy, that was long review. Alright, so overall, I love Final Fantasy 15. It's a great action RPG, massive, you get a lot of time for your money, great game, great music, really good story. Yes, there are parts which need more development, and I do think we're going to get that with the updates going forward. I would say if you know going into it that maybe some of the story elements aren't going to be fully fleshed out, then go into it and get it right now, because it's definitely worth a play. It's one of the best games I play on the PS4. Or wait till all the updates are out and kind of play that full, complete Final Fantasy 15 game that I'm really hoping that they get to release with all the updates and everything. So, is it a great game? Yes, I love it. Does it have flaws? Sure. And you know what? I love it anyway, warts and all. Thank you very much for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video, give me a subscribe, helps out my self-confidence, and check out my other videos on my channel. Thank you very much for watching.